What's happening, guys? Aruj again, and today we're talking over the digestive system. This is going to be part one of two. So there's four functions of the digestive system. The first one is ingestion, and that's simply taking food in. Next, we have digestion, which is breaking that food into smaller molecules. Absorption is moving those molecules into the bloodstream. And lastly, defecation, which is getting rid of that part of the food that we can't break down into small molecules. In short, the entire purpose of the digestive system is to move the molecules in your food into your blood. And in order to do that, we have to first take it in, we have to break it down, absorb it, and get rid of the stuff we can't use. Okay? So that's the digestive system in a nutshell. When we look at the organs, there's two categories of organs. First, we have the gastrointestinal tract, or the GI tract. And again, that's the food tube. That's that tube that starts from the top and ends at the bottom. Okay, it's this right here. All the way down the esophagus, to the stomach, to the small intestine, large intestine, and then right out. Okay, so that's the GI tract. The second category of organs we have are the accessory organs. And again, an accessory is something that assists or helps in digestion. Okay, so food isn't going to pass straight through those organs. Those organs are just going to help and aid in that digestion. Okay, so for example, the accessory organs that we're going to talk about are the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. Okay. All right. So just a quick refresher. I said the big idea is take those molecules from food and somehow get them into your blood by breaking them down. If you eat a carbohydrate, that carbohydrate is going to break down into sugars. Okay. The carbohydrate cannot enter your blood. The sugar can enter your blood. If you eat proteins, okay, such as egg, steak, or fish, that protein cannot enter your blood directly. But once you digest it into the 20 amino acids, those amino acids can enter your blood. And if you're looking at fats, which cashews are a great source of fats, avocados, coconut oil, or anything deep fried, again, those lipids cannot enter. They have to be broken down into fatty acids or broken down into smaller parts, okay? And those can enter your blood. Okay, next we have to go over mechanical versus chemical digestion. Mechanical digestion, just like it sounds, is anything physically breaking down the food. So your teeth are chomping and chewing, they're slicing and grinding. Your stomach churns, it expands, it contracts, and is constantly moving that food that you ingested, okay? And that is all mechanical digestion, physically altering the food, okay? In contrast, chemical digestion, just like it sounds, uses chemicals to digest the food. So enzymes or acids, okay? In your saliva, you do have an enzyme called amylase, and that starts digesting carbohydrates. So if you were to actually eat a piece or bite a piece of bread and constantly chew it and mix that in with your saliva, that bread will start to taste sweeter and sweeter because that enzyme amylase, which we'll talk about again later, amylase is turning that carbohydrate into sugar. And also in your stomach, you have stomach acid, which helps to soften the food and break down minerals. And those are chemicals, okay? And then also bile. Bile helps to emulsify or turn the fat into small little droplets, okay? And that bile is located here in the gallbladder, okay? Make sure you guys are getting these notes down, anything with this pencil, okay? Okay, so digestion starts in the mouth. Once you take a bite of food and you start chomping it up into this mass, that right there is now called a bolus. A bolus is basically just the mass of food that's in your mouth, or any mass. And in the mouth, we have both chemical and mechanical digestion. Chemical because we have that salivary amylase, okay, we have the saliva. And mechanical because we're physically chomping and chewing our food, okay? Now, why is chewing important? Chewing increases what's called surface area. It's breaking that food down so it comes in contact with more and more of that saliva, okay? And more of the stomach acids when it goes into the stomach. So after you take a bite, you're chomping this food up into the bolus, and you swallow that bolus, it's going to go down your esophagus. And the esophagus is essentially just a tube that goes from your oral cavity, from your mouth, down to your stomach. And it's basically just a passageway. It doesn't have really any main digestive function other than being a tube. What is unique about it is it does do what's called peristalsis. And peristalsis is this wave of contractions that's going to move that bolus down into the stomach. Okay? It's a wave of contractions that's going to occur. And again, peristalsis is so strong, if you were to take don't try this at home, okay? Don't do this. But if you were to hang upside down and take a bite of something, peristalsis can move that against gravity. It can move it upward to your stomach, okay? And again, peristalsis is not unique to just the esophagus. The small intestine and the large intestine, they have peristalsis too, okay? Next, after it goes down the esophagus, it's going to enter the stomach. And a lot of people think that the stomach is where most digestion occurs. It's actually not. We'll get into where most digestion occurs in a little bit. What the stomach does is it churns or mixes that bolus, okay, into chyme. So it's going to mix that bolus in with the stomach acids, which is like a soup. And once it's all mixed up and soupy, now it's called chyme. And the stomach has 3 layers of muscle, which again I'll show you in a moment. And those different layers of muscle allow it to expand and contract in different areas to mix that bolus in with the chyme. So the acid in your stomach is actually called hydrochloric acid, and that helps to break down minerals, and it does kill some bacteria. Not all bacteria, but it does kill some bacteria. Now, if you've ever had heartburn is where that stomach acid goes up and burns your esophagus. So why doesn't the stomach acid burn through your stomach? Well, your stomach is adapted for it. And it has this lining of mucus. And that lining of mucus protects it. Okay? And sadly, the esophagus does not have that lining in it. Okay? The stomach does have an enzyme called pepsin. And pepsin is important for breaking down proteins. Okay? So this is where proteins start to get broken down into amino acids. Okay. All right. If we take a closer look at the stomach, we notice that it has these folds. That's called the rugae. Okay. And those folds allow it to expand when it's filled with food and shrink when it's empty. And up top, we have the esophagus. Down here, this region of the stomach is called the pylorus, this distal end, or this end portion. This is the pylorus of the stomach. And right at the end of the pylorus, we have the pyloric sphincter. Now, this is the ring of muscles that is going to send the chyme from the stomach right into the duodenum, or the first part of the small intestine. Okay? Now, we do have another sphincter right up top. This is the esophageal sphincter. Why is it called that? Well, it's connecting the esophagus into the stomach. Down here is the pyloric sphincter. It sends the chyme down into the small intestine. Okay? And if you look right here, we can see that the muscle, like I said, there's 3 layers of muscle. They're striated in different directions. Okay? All right. And if we look over here, you would imagine the stomach would be around this area here. The stomach, as it shoots the chyme into the first part of the small intestine, this is called the duodenum, or duodenum, as some pronounce it. You notice that this portion of the small intestine has 3 accessory organs that connect all into it. So here we have the pancreas, that's attached. We have the liver, that's attached right here. And we also have the gallbladder that attaches into the duodenum, or duodenum. This part is important because since it has these 3 accessory organs attached, this is where most digestion occurs. Most digestion, okay? I'm actually going to go ahead and bring this to an end, and we will continue with digestion part 2, and I'll see you guys then. Adios.